Welcome to the Fantasy Roundup, everyone. Zach Ewing is out today. I'm Jim Derry, along with Spencer the Guru Urquhart. And Spence, what's going on today?
Hey, what's up, Jim? Not too much, man. Just trying to get this connection going here. I had to stream on my phone today. Had a little technical difficulties, but we all good. We ready to roll.
Well, better phone than never, right? We're
Right,
gonna do it
right.
any way we could do it. Today we're going to be talking about all kinds of sorts of things, and exciting week, obviously. Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. Super Bowl 56, the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be talking about player props and different things you can bet along the way. We're still working through some of our props, but I came up with some good ones last night that I like. I know you like some as well. So we're going to dive right into them. And we're going to start with the passing props and some of the things that we may or may not like. We'll look at some of the numbers here. And, you know, what jumps out right at you, Spencer? There's a couple things that jump out at me. You go first.
All right. Yeah, I like the over on Joe Burrow's passing yards as well as his touchdowns. I feel like the yards is probably the better value though because of the juice. I know we had talked about that last week with the over on the touchdown, the juice at minus 150, a little pricey. Where the over on the yards, I know it's a little tougher to predict that. A little 273.5. I just think they're gonna throw a lot though, and they're gonna have to. And I'm thinking the way the game script plays out, the Rams, I feel like are gonna get off to the early lead, and then the Bengals are gonna have to be playing catch up. So I like the over on Burrow.
Interesting. And if you look at these numbers, by the way, if you're new to betting or if you're not quite sure what they mean, the first number is the over, the second number is the under. And minus 115 means that you would have to bet $115 to win 100 or $11.50 to win $10. And vice versa. If it says plus, if you bet $100, like if it says plus 120, you bet $100, you would win $120. So they're asking for a little bit extra juice to bet either the over or the under on the Joe Burrow over-under. And I don't necessarily like either one of those. The one thing that jumps out at me is I think I like the under on the Joe Burrow touchdowns. I don't think Cincinnati's going to score a whole bunch, but that's, we're going to get more into my handicap on the game later in the week, especially when we do Bayou bets on Thursday. But I know it seems like a low number, 1.5 touchdowns. Seems like it should be easy to do. I just don't. I think that Cincinnati's going to have trouble moving the football, period. And we're going to get to some more props later on. But interesting on these passing props, 273.5 yards. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but, I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about what the Bengals are trying to do, I think they're going to try to establish the run. I think they're going to look at Mixon first. If that isn't successful, obviously, they're going to have to try to throw the ball. So these are probably numbers I wouldn't play either way. It's probably right around on where the number should be. And I think the same goes for Matt Stafford. I think the Rams are going to try to establish the run. I probably we'll get to Cam Akers in just a minute. In fact, he's next. But none of these numbers are super intriguing to me. If anything, I would probably take I like the under on the Burrow touchdowns. And I think both quarterbacks are prone to throw an interception. So if I had to bet on one of those, I'd probably lean towards at interceptions. Let's move on to the running props in this thing. And this is where I find some value here. And like I just said, I love Cam Akers over here. I think that the Rams are going to do whatever they have to do to run the football. And I think that Cam Akers, Sean McVay likes going with the one run back approach. And the Bengals do, for the most part, obviously they use Joe Mixon more than they use anyone else. But I know Cam Akers had his fumbling issues, Spencer, but I really think that they're going to do whatever they can. He rushed for, I think, 90 yards in his last game. Well, Mixon did rush for 90 yards against the Chiefs. I like both of these overs, really. I think both of these teams are going to do whatever they can to run the ball.
I got you. Yeah, I'm with you on Akers for sure because I'm thinking they'll be able to establish the run early. The Bengals have been run on throughout the playoffs, so I'm thinking Akers has has a good game and goes over the rushing prop. Mixon, I'm not so sure because I feel like they're going to try to establish it with Mixon, but I don't see it panning out. I feel like the Rams' run defense is going to be able to contain him. Mixon's kind of worn down here down the stretch. I know he bounced back against the Chiefs, but the 2 games prior to that, he didn't do so hot. He's kind of been hit or miss here in the playoffs. So I'm thinking they lean more on Burrow's arm. So I mean, it's not the total's not too high at 62.5. I think it's a fair line, but it's probably one I wouldn't mess with either way. And then for the totals, I'd probably prefer Akers there too. I know Mixon's gotten involved. He's pretty involved as a receiver, so I'd probably rather the go if I had to pick a over on the 92.5. I'd probably rather that than the 62.5 rushing, because I could see him being heavily involved as a receiver, especially if CJ Uzama doesn't play, because the Bengals don't have a wide target tree there. But yeah, I'm thinking Akers is probably the better value here.
What scares me the most about Burrow doing anything, and obviously everything's tied around Joe Burrow, I mean, including the running game. What scares me about Joe Burrow is I keep thinking about the Titans and how they were able to sack him 9 times. And that offensive line is not good. And the Rams play a similar style defense to the Titans. I think they're going to get at Burrow. And again, another prop we're going to get to in just a little bit. But I think Burrow's going to be scratching around for his life back there. And I'm afraid to bet anything that has to do with Joe Burrow in this game. You know, when you look at MVP numbers, I mean, if the Bengals win the game, he's probably going to win the MVP most likely. But I don't see how he's going to get a lot going on unless he's able to move himself quickly out of the pocket, which he's able to do. Just a scary thought process when you think about trying to get the Bengals. And even when we're coming up to receiving props in just a minute, it's going to affect all those numbers as well. And we can look at the receiving props, Patrick. I think, Spence, when you talk about these numbers, I mean, first of all, the Cooper Kupp number is ungodly high because he's been doing ungodly things throughout the playoffs. But I want to start with Jamar Chase and get your opinion on it. To me, that is a high number for Jamar Chase. And I know that he's had games where he's gone super crazy. And Burrow looks for Jamar Chase first. But it goes back to what I'm saying. Everything revolves around Burrow. Everything revolves around that offensive line. So to see that 78.5 is a little bit scary.
Yeah, I see your point for sure. I'm feeling Burrow though. I feel like he's gonna be able to adjust and adapt, because that's what he's done that so well throughout these playoffs. Even in that Titans game, it started off not too good. It took a lot of sacks. Even in the second half, it wasn't the prettiest performance, but he just found a way to get it done. And Chase is that guy that he leans upon, and I feel like it's gonna be a pretty close game and fairly high score. And so I would if I had to pick, I'd take the over here, because all it takes is 1 or 2 long bombs to Chase, and he'll get over 100. So I know why they said it here, because if he doesn't get those, then he probably won't hit it. But I'm gonna bet on that he does, because he's just that explosive. Jalen Ramsey's a stud, but I'm not scared of that. I feel like Chase is gonna be able to burn him at least once in the game, and then have enough other targets to where he should be able to get the over there. And I like Odell Beckham's over at 63.5.
I think you and I are thinking different things about this game, because I think
I think so.
I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I mean, look, here's the thing when it comes to betting over-unders on anything. It includes receiver props, it includes any kind of prop, it includes a total, it includes all kinds of things. People have trouble betting unders because who wants to bet on an under? Who wants to wait till the end of the game to find out if you got a 78.5 for Jamar Chase and he's hanging on 63 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, you're sitting there yelling at the TV, begging for him to throw to Jamar Chase. Whereas if you got the over and he hits it in the third quarter, you're like, hooray, it's over. I won it already. So it's a lot better it's a lot easier to bet it over. Hence, the overs are always inflated. Those numbers are always inflated. It goes to me the same as totals. unders hit more than overs do, and people just don't want to bet unders because they're not fun. And trust me, I know I've been on the side of an under begging for it to hit many times. It's just, and again, you look at Cooper Cup and 106.5, that's at Caesars. You can find it as low as 103.5. I saw 102.5 yesterday, but I don't remember where. It's probably gone by now. The point is, here's another thing, and it works for player props, I think, as well as it works for totals. If you like an over on something, anything you like that's over, you probably ought to bet it now because it's not going to go down. That includes a player prop. That includes the total on the game because I think that's going to go up before the end of the week's over, which is it's currently sitting at 48.5. It's been pretty steady there, but I think it'll be 49 or 49.5 before the game starts. Because sharps jump on unders. They get a total they like, they jump on an under, and a lot of times you can see, and we talked about it with Adam Chernoff of Covers.com this morning on Datitude. You can get some people got Cooper Cup at 102.5. He might be as high as like 110.5 or 111.5 by Saturday or Sunday. Then they'll take the over on the 102.5 and the under on the 111.5. Then they're playing the middle basically for free or almost for free for very little risk. So I find these numbers interesting, and I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, both sides. I don't think either team's going to play a ton. So we're going to get to that on Thursday when we get to Bayou Bets because we're going to talk about different other team props potentially. But we're still on these individual props, and it moves us to the defense because now here there are some numbers that I love. Okay, Spence, I may be a little bit more gung-ho about it over here, and I know it's a lot to lay. 190. You got to lay $190 to win 100, or you got to lay $19 to win 10, which seems like an awful lot for Aaron Donald to have a sack. But I got to say, I'm going to be super surprised if Aaron Donald doesn't have at least one sack.
Yeah, I would think he'll get one there, and then Von Miller and about the same. Yeah, considering they're about the same, and Donald's the top pass rusher, I'd probably say Donald's a little better value. But yeah, that's I can't really argue with it because with the Bengals O-line, I don't think Burrow gets sacked 8 times like he did against Tennessee, but I think he'll hit the turf at least 3 or 4 times probably.
Another number I like is Awuzie because he's going to be on Cooper Cup, and we know that Matt Stafford loves to throw it towards Cooper Cup. He targets him about 11 or 12 times a game. So Awuzie is going to have plenty of chances to get to that interception number. Just needs to get one. 6.5 to 1 to get one. I like that number.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be a pretty big payoff if he could get it. And so and he'll be going his way a lot. And Eli Apple does the same. Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd go Awuzie. Eli Apple. He was the one that dropped one against the Chiefs. And so I wouldn't trust him if I had to pick one.
I don't think any Saints fans will be betting on Eli Apple to do anything. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
No, he did, and that's why I like Odell Beckham's over because I think he's gonna be able to torch Eli Apple at least once on a deep ball and just even over the middle. I think they're gonna target Odell a lot because Kupp. And that's why with Kupp, in a way, I know he's been so high, but that's why I'd be tempted to go with the under on Kupp because I'm thinking he's going to get so much attention. That's going to allow Odell and maybe even Van Jefferson to get open and stretch the field.
I don't have any problems with that. I think that might be a good move. All right, let's talk about your best props. We each did our own list of Super Bowl props, and your favorite props. Let's just talk about a few of them here.
All right, we have Burrow, Mixon, Burrow and Odell on the over, as well as Tyler Boyd over because even if CJ Uzomah plays, I think he's going to be really limited. So I'm thinking Tyler Boyd gets a lot more usage in this game than he has the past few weeks. He's been kind of the forgotten man there, but I think at 40.5, he should easily be able to get that and the juice is favorable. And then we talked about Mixon with his with the rushing. I know Jim. You think they're gonna want to establish it, and I think they will too. But I just don't think they'll be able to, which is why I've got him on the under, and then I've got a couple more Bengals things in there just because I'm thinking they can definitely pull it off, and they're the better value. I feel. I mean, I don't know. It's obviously no sure thing that they will, but I think there's a good chance they could, and I feel like at these prices, they're just where they were just you get more payoff for them than as opposed to the Rams since they're the underdog, and so I like them. I think if they do win, it'll be close, which is why I have them there at winning by 1 to 6 points. If they do, it's a solid payoff. And then I think if they do win, pretty sure Jamar Chase is going to get on the fun there and find the end zone.
All righty. As you see by my props coming up, I'm probably leaning the other way. I won't be upset, though, if Joe Burrow and company find a way to win. I'll be happy again. I mean, I have future on the Bengals and the Rams, so I'm going to win either way as far as that goes. But I will say this. If you look at these, I think you know where I'm headed with this. My favorite bet of all is the total sacks over 5 for the game. And that means that both teams combined, the sack number total is over 5. You got to lay 140 to win 100, but I just don't see how the Rams don't get 3 or 4 sacks here. By themselves. And I think Trey Henderson's got a good shot to get in there. Obviously, we know the Bengals have a pretty good pass rush. They're going to find a way to get in on Stafford as well. So I think the combined total is going to be over 5. That is my prop of the week for sure, to this point at least. The Rams have typically outgained their opponents by more yards throughout the season, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 yards per game. The Bengals, meanwhile, have been winning without outgaining their opponents. So even if the Rams win the game, I think there's an excellent chance they end up with more yards. Hence, I like both of these next two bets, yards and first downs. Again, you're laying a little bit more than you like, so this is one of those things that's going to scare amateur bettors away because I don't know if I want to pay $160 to bet to win 100, but I think there's more than a 1.6 to 1 chance that the Rams have more yards when this game's over than the Bengals. I think it's more than like 2 to 1, and I think you're getting a great value on that number. And I would be absolutely shocked if the Rams don't – if they win the game, if they don't have more yards than the Bengals, I would be very, very surprised. So you're talking right now a money line of about 2 to 1 to get 1.6 to 1 on yards. I think is a great value. I talked about Cam Akers already. Why I think he's going over 63.5 rushing yards. He is going to get the ball at least 20 times. So if he gets the ball 20 times, excellent chance to do that. To say that he's not going to have a little over 3 yards of carry against what I think is not a great rushing defense. They're 24th in the league are the Bengals against the run. And they just come off of 2 games where they played 2 very good rush defense teams. So I think they ought to be ready against against the Bucs, one of the best teams in the NFL against the run. I think San Francisco is in the top 3 or 4 as well against the run. So, and he did okay. He didn't get to that 63.5 number. And then we saw what he did against the Buccaneers. He fumbled, but he's going to be on his A game, and they're going to hand him the ball a ton in this one. Joe Burrow under 11.5 rushing yards. At first, when I was looking through these props, I'm like, let me just go see what he's done. He doesn't rush for, I think he's only done it 3 or 4 times all season, rush for 11.5 yards. So the only thing that scares me about this is he will probably be under pressure, so there will be plenty of times when he's trying to escape the pocket and those sorts of things. But I just think 11.5 yards, a lot to ask for a quarterback as Burrow, who only runs when he absolutely has to. And then more points in the second half. This is a combined number. This is not just one team or the other. I think this game's going to start off slow. I truly believe they're going to kind of feel each other out a little bit. You're talking about a Rams team that's really only been in the Super Bowl once in this generation, has only been in the Super Bowl once. And then obviously a Cincinnati Bengals team that hasn't been in the Super Bowl since most of these players have been alive. So it's going to take a little while for them to get adjusted to being in the Super Bowl. Therefore, I think by the time they start figuring things out, and especially Spencer, if you're right about Cincinnati, I think there's a good chance they at least at the minimum fall behind, and then they have to catch themselves back up, which leads to more points being scored later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's typically the way it goes in the Super Bowl. The jitters. I think both teams are gonna have a little jitters, being that it'll be Stafford's first time, and all the Bengals guys pretty much all be their first time. So yeah, I like that one in the sacks one a lot. And then of course I'm leaning more toward the Bengals, so I probably wouldn't lean as much toward those Rams ones, but they could happen. We'll just have to see. I just feel like do you feel like the Bengals? I know you're not really liking them, but I just looking through it, I just feel like there's a lot of value to be had there, like with the different totals and stuff. It's just
there are values on. I think there are values on certain things. I think you have to dig through them. I'd probably be more inclined to take like Tyler Boyd, something along those lines. Maybe a T. Higgins, maybe that over, because those numbers are going to probably be a little bit lower because Chase is high. You're thinking they're going to throw the ball to Chase. And I do like a receiver that can cross the middle a little bit more. Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins both can do that. But like you said, C.J. Uzomah is probably not going to be playing in this game. And so I think you have to think about that. And then like you said, maybe I'm more inclined to play a Mixon total number instead of just his rushing yards, because I do think they're going to be looking for him as an outlet pass, because the Rams are going to try to attack. I mean, the Bengals are going to try to attack the middle of the field, kind of what the 49ers didn't do but should have. So that's where they're really going to miss C.J. Uzomah. And I think that also comes along, and you talk about, factors of the game and keys. They're going to have a tougher time attacking that middle because they don't have a George Kittle. Even with C.J. Uzomah, he's not as good as Kittle is, but he still would be able to do those crossing routes. So I can't even remember who the second string tight end is for the Bengals, but he's probably going to be plus 16 or 17 yards.
Drew Sample.
Weird name.
Drew Sample.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe you want to look at his numbers and see what he is, because he's going to throw to his tight end because he's almost going to have to. So there are definitely some Bengals numbers that are going to have value. You just got to search through and find them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then on the flip side, the Rams, if Tyler Higbee doesn't play, then Kendall Blanton becomes a value. Then it's looking more like Higbee's not going to play.
Blanton already showed that he can be
right.
He made some big catches, I think, in the Bucs game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He came in and he seemed to just fit right in. Even in the 49ers game when Higbee got hurt, he came in. I think he had like 5 catches for 50 yards. So I feel like it'd be a good plug and play there. And we'll get to that more when we talk about our super draft picks, which I have a little super draft pick.
All right, I semi-understand this, so you're going to have to explain it to me a little bit. I know this is along the lines of like what a DraftKings lineup would be per se, but you're going to have to explain this a little bit to me.
Okay, yeah, basically what it is with the lineup structure, you have your champion and co-champion spots. It means for the champion spot, it's plus 50%. So you get Joe Burrow in there. Let's just say Joe Burrow gets 30 points for the night. And so he gets 30 and plus 50% of that. So he would end up with 45 points for for this deal, plus his multiplier, which is a 1.6. So he would get a pretty big bonus here. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it. So he would get a big boost, as well as Cooper Kupp is the co-champion. He doesn't get quite as big a boost, 25. If you feel better about Cooper Kupp, you could always flip-flop them, and some people like to do multiple lineups with different scenarios. I just felt like I feel like even if the Bengals do fall short, that Burrow is going to do well, as I've stated previously. So he's my pick for the top spot, and then if Kupp can keep up his good run, then he could be a good co-champion. Or maybe Matthew Stafford. I mean, of course, he might want to do 2 quarterbacks. I just feel with Kupp, he's been so consistent. And then the rest of the spots there with Chase, I like Jamar Chase to go over and have a big game. And then Cam Akers there. We both like Cam Akers, and he has a decent multiplier there at 1.4. So that would mean he would get The 1.4, I mean, it'd be his total plus 40% of that. So if he would get 20 points, he would then get 40% of
Right.
that on top of his 20. And then we both like Boyd and Blanton. And I mean, y'all can mix and match however y'all would like. But I just feel like these are some guys that could, because y'all want to target those multipliers, which is why I made sure to include Blanton on here because Blanton will get, even if he only gets 10 points, just standard, like for this, he'll get over 20 points because of his multiplier.
Well, one thing I do like is, like we said, we talked about the bottom three, and I like those. But if I'm doing a DraftKings lineup, and I know this isn't necessarily a DraftKings lineup, some things that I do like for the weekend is I probably would find a way to put both quarterbacks in there and find a way to put both defenses in there. And I probably will do a DraftKings lineup this weekend because I don't have enough going on, Spencer.
Yeah.
I may have to have a notebook with 18 pages of stuff that I need to flip through. Oh, wait, hold on, that one happened. Oh, yeah, hold on. Oh, I forgot about that one. It's going to be a interesting weekend. And that's one thing with the app now. It's like there's so many things going on where it's going to be like a cuckoo clock going on back and forth. So that will be fun. That will be fun. Let's talk about some of your fantasy rankings. And we're looking ahead to already thinking about 22 football season, right?
Always thinking ahead.
You have to. And it's hard to even know where some players are going to land. Who's going to be the next Saints quarterback? We don't even know the answer to that. Now that Dennis Allen has been here, don't want to really get into it too much here, but the Alvin Kamara situation. How much if he's going to play? We don't even know. But let's take a look at your top 10 first off to your top 10 list of your fantasy rankings going into next season. And right here, someone asked me last night, interestingly enough, who I thought the number one pick in next year's fantasy draft would be. And I said it's got to be Jonathan Taylor or Derrick Henry. So I'm glad we're on the same page. It's going to be such a weird offseason trying to figure out because, we've talked about wide receivers. I always think a running back should be first because they're tougher to get. We went into this year thinking it was be Christian McCaffrey. He gets hurt like he usually does. It's just thinking ahead and looking ahead. It's good a year as Jonathan Taylor had. I think it's going to be one of those things where I go into my draft next year and if I have the number 2 pick, I'm going to be begging for the guy ahead of me to take Jonathan Taylor. Why am I thinking that way?
I got you. Oh, because you're thinking that the King Henry will have a better value, I guess.
Yeah, and I think how hard is it for Lightning to strike twice for a guy that's I know he went through a whole season and did it, but I mean, is he really going to be able to pull those kind of numbers off again? And assuming Derrick Henry is fully healthy going into the next season, how can you not make him number one? I'm not saying how can you not. I'm just saying in a general sense. I mean, I think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor's going to be kind of like we talk about sharps and squares. I think Taylor's going to be the square pick. Jonathan Taylor's awesome. And I'm not saying he's not. But, I mean, I guess the point is 1 and 2 could easily be flip-flopped.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to mileage for me. It's just Henry's just got a lot more as far as his rushing, his career rushing. There's so many more touches accumulated than Taylor at this point to where, I feel like Henry, it might be a deal. What if he gets hurt again? What if these injuries become a more common theme? I know he's been very durable throughout his career, which is why I still have him up near the top. But to me, that's the difference as far as why I didn't have Henry first, because prior to the injury, he was miles ahead of everybody else. It was looking like he'd be the for sure number 1 in 22 without question. But I just feel like the injuries, and he's not old per se, but he's also not that young anymore for a running back. So that's the difference for me. Is that and in Taylor's the prime age, young, still be his 3rd year in the league.
Yeah, well, I don't put it this way. If I had to draft today for next year, I don't think you could go wrong taking Taylor number 1 at all. I'm just saying, if I got that number 2 slot, I'm begging the guy ahead of me takes Jonathan Taylor. That's all I'm saying. All
For
right,
sure.
there are actually three other names. Two of them are joined. If you go back real quick, Patrick, because there's something I want to talk about real quick. And then Devontae Adams. I mean, we don't know who's going to be throwing to him, right? I mean, we think Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing to him, but just quickly in about 20 seconds, tell me what you think about why you have him so high.
Yeah, because I'm thinking I think him and Rodgers are going to try to make it a package deal to where they both get to go to Denver. And so I'm thinking that if they are
That would
staying
cost
Green
Denver a
Bay,
lot of money.
but yeah, but I think they'll be able to make it work. They've got assets. They could send them Jerry Jeudy and a lot of picks. And I know it's a lot of money to take on with those two, but I'm thinking Adams and Rodgers are a package deal.
Interesting. All right, same deal. About 20 seconds. Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, interestingly, went in 1-2 into this year's draft. Everyone thought those were the two guys to get. They both get banged up. Those are guys you couldn't pay me to take either one of those guys because I don't trust them one iota.
Right. Yeah. They're just the injuries, especially with, well, both of them really. I mean, Dalvin Cook is like every year there's something. And McCaffrey, the past couple of years, it's been multiple injuries each year. He'll come back in the middle of the year, think, oh, he's good to go. Then he gets hurt again.
Exactly.
And so it's an accumulation of stuff, which is why they're so talented to where they're still first rounders, but they're back in first rounders now because they've got upside, but they're just too risky to take in the top 5 or 6.
Well, maybe they'll turn into major values because I know a lot of people probably going to stay away from them early. If you got that 10th pick, you might be forced to take one of them and just cross your fingers and hope they don't get hurt, but we'll find out. All right, the next, Shay, let's pick two names from this next group to talk about 11 through 20. And, Deebo Samuel's easy. I mean, how much is Trey Lance throwing to him going to affect him? They need to not use him as much as they did for sure. But two names I want to talk about on this list. Stephon Diggs at 17, I think another guy could be a great value. And then conversely, a guy I'm probably not going to touch is Zeke Elliott. I just don't – I mean – do you think that potentially Zeke Elliott is getting towards the end of his career? I know he hasn't been in the league all that long, but to me, he started to wear down towards the end of the season, and he's another guy that has his injury moments.
Right, yeah, definitely. As far as Zeke wearing down, it's just on that offense and being that they're paying him, he's still Jerry's guy. They're not going to move on from him. No one's going to want to trade for him either, so they're kind of stuck. Just kind of stuck there. I think he'll just kind of plot his way to like high end RB2, low end RB1 type numbers. Not an exciting pick, a guy that I'm not gonna be too excited about. As we get closer to the season, I have a feeling the Saquon hype's gonna get going with the new coach and stuff, to where he'll probably leapfrog Zeke by the time it's all said and done. But Zeke is they could actually end up a good value because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to see Tony Pollard and stuff and just going to want to write Zeke off. But, he's not horrible. I think it's one of those deals to where people expect him to be like he was in his prime, which, he's not that anymore. But he's also not just a complete garbage either. He's not somebody that's just completely falling off. I still think he's got a couple of years left in the tank.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley's another one. I agree with you that he's going to jump up this. That's probably where he is about right for about now, and he will jump up this chart. And to me, anyone that gets hurt has two major injuries, especially this early in their career. You can count them out for me. I ain't touching them. If I got them, if I'm in the third round or something, they're still hanging around, which ain't going to happen. Then maybe, but I'm not touching a guy who gets hurt as frequently as Saquon Barkley. And it's a shame because he's maybe one of the top 3 or 4 most talented guys on this list combined. Let's talk about you got another page of this list and some names I find really interesting on here. And Elijah Mitchell at 25. I went into my season. I got him as a free agent, okay? And we use Fab, and we have a keeper league, so I spent so much money on him in Fab that I didn't have to. If I would have realized that he was going to be this good and I could have tried to find a way to keep him, I might have had a different strategy with my Fab and not just go gung-ho and say, let me bid something to where potentially I could keep him. this guy's going to be going. You want to talk about guys that could climb the list? I think Elijah Mitchell, and I know you're a UL guy, so I'm not going to – I know you already love this guy. But I think Elijah Mitchell could be easily in the top 20 by the time we get to next year's draft.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, the only reason I didn't have him higher was because being in the Kyle Shanahan system is always a little nerve-wracking for a running back because throughout his history, he's tended to rotate his backs. But this year, he did a different approach. He basically let Elijah Mitchell take full control of the backfield with Debo sprinkled in here and there. Eli was really the only running back, like true running back that was involved. So we'll see if that continues. If it does, then yeah, he's definitely going to be worth a probably mid to late second round pick. It's just we'll have to see how the offseason goes and hope that they don't go and sign or draft another running back because it's just throughout Shanahan's history, it's normally a multi-back system.
And there's a note there, and it's in big type. And there's a reason why we left Alvin Kamara is left unranked because we have no idea when, if he's going to play next year. Obviously, there's a lot of things to sort out with Alvin Kamara. We talked about it yesterday on Bayou Bets. Went to it extensively with Trey Wingo on the Datitude podcast this morning. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again on Thursday with our Bayou Bets show. Spence, some closing words for you. What are you looking forward to most in the Super Bowl on Sunday?
All right, yeah, I'm looking forward to see if they go. I know I'm gonna sound like a Joe Burrow lover here, but like I'm looking forward to see if Burrow is will he be able to close it out? Like he's had this magical run. It's been a storybook type deal coming off the knee injury. No one expected it. Ridiculous long shot before the season, and just so I'm thinking I'm thinking he gets it done. It'll be interesting to see if he can. No, it's a tough task. There's no denying it's a tough task when you've got Aaron Donald and Von Miller facing you, and I think he knows that though. He's mature beyond his years, very battle tested. Has been known to step up in big moments. He got it done with LSU back a couple years ago, and we'll see if he can get it done here this Sunday.
It's hard. Again, it's hard not to root for them. So I probably won't be rooting for them. Against them. I just don't know if I'll be rooting for them either. It just kind of depends on the rest of my prop shakeout. My biggest over-under is going to be, I'm going to put the number at 4.5. How many times I have to say, get out of the way of the TV? You know, I mean, the Super Bowl, think about it. You know, it's one of those games where everybody's got to be around. Everybody wants to watch their commercials. Everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants to eat chips in your ear. You know, I don't know. It's a little strange. It's not like a regular game. That's why I get a little depressed when those conference championships are over. You know.
Oh yeah. And then it's the long drought. As far as no football, it's gonna be a long drought. We'll have we'll have NASCAR. We'll have NASCAR for a while.
We got NASCAR. We got golf.
And golf, and yeah, maybe hopefully baseball. Hopefully, fingers crossed at the freaking lockout. I mean, I was looking at that, reading stuff from an MLB player rep today, Andrew Miller, and it sounds like the players are standing their ground. So I have a feeling I think the season will play, but I don't think it's going to start on time.
It's going to be fun to try to schedule a fantasy draft when you don't know when the heck they're going to start. I mean, this is about the time when we start planning our draft out. We make it pretty big, bunch of media types. We have no idea what to do here, so we may just have a party. Who knows? If they don't want to play, that's their business. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother show that we'll be talking about soon. Spence, good job. And I hope I did okay filling in for Zach. I know I don't have the panache and the brains that Zach Ewing has, but I'm from the West Bank. It is what it is.
All good. And I think we have a little Caesars, a little word from Caesars.
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. See, that's something that Zach would have done. He would have needed to remind himself about that. Bet $20, get $300. That is the special. If you go through bet.NOLA.com, you can do that now. Use code NOLA300. Bet $20, get $300 at Caesars Sportsbook. That is going to just about do it for us here on the Fantasy Roundup. We will see you Thursday for a little Bayou Bets where we will give our final bets of the week Going into Super Bowl number 56, I'm Jim Derry. He's Spencer the Guru Urquhart. We thank Patrick McGee for directing behind the scenes. See you later, everybody.